Well, you know what? My schedule is a little off because decided to visit some of my family up here in West Virginia. So I was driving last night. Y'all already know I usually do my live shows 10 p.m. Monday through Friday, right? Well, I was kind of driving at 10 p.m. last night, so we weren't able to do a live show last night, and schedule's a little bit off today as well. So the live show's not normal, but that March Madness is what's going on right now, and I'm keeping my eyes on that because yesterday history was made again. And don't worry, I'm going to get into the Pac-12. Okay, we're going to talk about that, but I wanted to talk about Purdue. And Joey filled in for me the other night because I couldn't go because we were still packing and stuff. And one of the things we talked about was the region that I think it's Duke, Kentucky, Purdue. I don't know which region that. Let me check that real quick. I don't think it's the South region because that's the region that West Virginia's in, and we got bounced, of course. Let's see here. That is the East region. We were talking about the East region, and I think that the East region for the brackets is one of the easier regions. And people disagree with me, and I was like, guys, listen. And the excuses were Duke. What about Duke? Duke's not good this year. What happened? They got beat pretty soundly by Tennessee today. They didn't even make the Sweet 16. I went to bat for Purdue. I will say that. I thought Purdue was going to at least get to the second round because the 1 seed has only been beaten by the 16 seed one time, and that was Virginia a couple years ago, right? It happened again, folks. It happened again. And Purdue, something is wrong with Purdue when they get to the big dance. I don't know what's going on with Purdue when they get to the big dance, but they are setting records for the wrong reasons. I think this is the third straight appearance that Purdue has gotten beat by a double digit seed. I think it was last year. It was either last year or 2021 where they got beat by the 15 seed St. Peter's. St. Peter's actually made a decent run, but man, they have got to fix their. I mean, could you? I'm a West Virginia fan, and y'all know how mad I get. I literally think that West Virginia is cursed in all sports, football, basketball, whatever. Every time it seems like we're going to do something, something bad happens. But here recently, it looks like Purdue is cursed in college basketball. I mean, you can't think about it this way. If you're a Purdue fan and your team gets beat by the 15 seed in the first round, oh man, it can't get any worse than that, right? Then you fast forward it to this year. They win the Big Ten championship. They're looking good. Now they only beat Penn State by 2 points. That was a warning sign right there. But anyways, they still won the Big Ten championship. Can't get any worse. We're back to the big dance. We're a 1 seed. You know, the 1 seed has only gotten beat by a 16 seed one time. We got this in the bag. And what happens? They get beat by Farley Dickinson. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Is that how you say it? Farley Dickinson, something like that? I don't know. Who shouldn't have been in the big dance to begin with, because I think it was Manhattan or McCormick or something like that. They won that conference, but they weren't allowed to participate in the big dance because of, the NCAA rules. Like, once you join a conference, you can't win that conference and get to the big dance after, I don't know, 1 or 2 years, something like that. So, because of a technical rule, Farley Dickinson gets into the big dance and they beat Purdue. Man, that's got to hurt right there. That's got to hurt. So I had to get that off my chest, and we're going to keep up with scores because we're in what is this, day 3? The first weekend of the big dance is by far the most exciting, and tomorrow will be the last day of that. Then we'll get into our second week, which is the Sweet 16 Elite Eight, and then so on and so forth. But the first weekend is basically the main reason why they call it March Madness. So we'll keep up with that, see if there's any other crazy upsets coming up, and see what happens there. But tonight we're also going to talk about the Pac-12. Right now, the Pac-12 has a TV. This is what we know. The Pac-12 does indeed have a TV deal on the table. All right. What we don't know, number one, what it's worth. We've all heard rumors, 22, 25. I've also heard 28. but taking out production costs because this is going to be streaming heavy. Could be 21, 20. I don't know. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of between 20 and 28 million. Nobody knows the exact amount. Okay, so we know there's a TV deal on the table, but what we don't know is the amounts and if these teams are going to sign the grant of rights. There's a huge difference. People aren't realizing this. I don't know why. There is a huge difference between having a TV deal and teams signing the grant of rights. And right now, we're in that limbo phase. Don't know what's going on. We know there's a TV deal on the table. We know they're looking at it. We don't know what the numbers are, and we don't know if the teams like it or not. And it does seem like that certain teams have showed their hands. Some teams are still trying to hide it. Utah is standing firm, and I've made several videos. Yesterday, I made a video about it. Did pretty well. Same thing with today about Utah, and then the possible split up between Arizona and Arizona State. I made a video about that yesterday, and that video did really, really good. I think there's a real possibility that Arizona and Arizona State get split up as far as one being in the Pac-12 and the other being in, I don't know, the Big 12, or maybe one being in the Big 10, Big 12, some type of split up. Because there for a while, I was hearing that there was state legislation that ties these two teams together. As far as wherever Arizona had to be, Arizona State had to be. Wherever Arizona State was, Arizona had to be. That legislation does not exist. So they do not have to stay in the same conference. So I truly believe, seriously, that those two teams will get split up. Quick update. It looks like Arkansas and Kansas is winding down, and Arkansas is up by 2 points, 39 seconds left. Arkansas had possession. No, that was Kansas that had possession. I don't know if that was a foul. So they're up by 2. So we're keeping our eyes on another potential 1 seed going down. Houston is playing Auburn as well. We'll keep our eyes on that. Princeton is still making their run, by the way. They're beating Missouri, so they're trying to make a Sweet 16 run. Kansas is at the line. Since the first one trying to tie it, this one's going to come down to the wire. So we'll keep you up to date on that one as well. This is we always think that it can't get any crazier, and yet this year the Big Dance proves yes, it can get crazier. I did predict one major upset that a lot of people were not predicting, and that was Furman over who did they beat? Furman over Virginia. I didn't trust Virginia because they not a very good offensive team, and if they have a down defensive game, which they did against Furman's a good shooting team, then I gave a chance to Furman to beat them, and that's exactly what happened. It looks like Arkansas drove the ball to the hole, got fouled, it's going to go to the line, 23.7 seconds left. The Kansas player is pleading his case to no avail as of right now. All right, we'll keep our eyes on that, but let's talk about the Pac-12 while we're looking at that. Okay, so Utah has made it crystal clear they do not want to go to the Big 12. They went as far as saying they actually think that if they go to the Big 12, then that it's going to affect their academic funding negatively. Which, by the way, before we go any further, I can't believe I forgot to mention this before. What you guys should be reminding me in the comment section. Make sure to hit that like button if you haven't already. Even if you're watching a replay, doesn't matter. Hitting the like button helps these videos hit the YouTube algorithm, gets it suggested more people see it, and they click on it, and that's how we grow the video. So you're not just helping me, but you're also helping yourself by growing the audience, more trash talk, all that stuff. So please hit the like button if you haven't done so far. And if you have a question, a comment, troll attempt, you want to correct me on something, you think that I'm wrong about something, and you want to correct me, and you want everybody to see it, hit that super chat button. It is that little dollar sign that you see on the bottom right-hand corner. Anything you put in that super chat is going to go on the screen for everybody to see, and I know you can already see the chat, but it will be highlighted. I will read it, address it, and also it's a great way to support the channel. Like I've said many, many times, us college football YouTubers, we always appreciate those donations, but in the off season, we appreciate those donations just a little bit more. So it's a great way to support the channel, and here at Gone Unbluted, we greatly appreciate all those donations and all those supports. Arkansas, by the way, at the line, misses the second one, gets the ball back. This is going to be a wild ending, a foul. He's going to go back to the line, 20.4 seconds. Hectic ending going on between Arkansas and Kansas. Didn't those two teams play in a bowl game and Arkansas beat Kansas? This has been a wild year, not just for college basketball, but also, and they had a great game too. So looks like Arkansas is trying to beat Kansas twice. Once on the football field where they beat them in the bowl game, and then once in the Big Dance tournament. Sinks the first one, so Arkansas is up by 2 points now. This one's going to come down the wire, guys. Anyways, so not Arkansas, excuse me. Utah says they are not going to the Big 12 because they think it would hurt their funding for their academics. Utah is a big time medical institution. And listen, like I said in my video, I am not talking down to Utah for putting academics first. Not at all. I'm not trash talking them. I am not looking down on them for that. I think that's admirable. But then they went on to say they think the best decision for their university as it relates to the NIL would not to go to the Big 12. That's where it doesn't make sense. All right? Academics does one thing, which is an argument, a decent argument for the Pac-12. Athletics and NIL, that is not an argument. Because 80% of the viewership, 80% of the viewership of the United States that watch, pretty much any programming, especially college football, 80% is actually on the east side of the United States. So that would actually give your university, your brand, your athletics more exposure if you joined a conference that was more east. So the NIL argument, the athletics argument does not make any sense. It doesn't. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I can understand the academics, but not the NIL thing. So that doesn't make sense at all. But Utah is making it clear they want to stay in the Pac-12, and that's fine. I understand. Arizona State seems to be adamant about staying in the Pac-12. I understand that as well. It's Arizona and Colorado that we have to keep an eye on. By the way, 16.1 seconds left. Arkansas is up by 3 points. You know what? My brackets are totally busted, so I might as well go for the underdog here because Arizona. I had Arizona going to the national championship. They lost in the first round, and the team that I had winning the national championship is getting beat by 3 right now. So let's go Arkansas, pull the upset, and just completely annihilate. Looks like they got a foul. 8 seconds left. He will go to the line. So Kansas trying to extend the game here, at least send it to overtime. We'll see what happens. But let's see what this call was. Was his feet moving? Yeah, his feet was moving. That was on the defender. But that's good. When you know you commit a foul, don't look around like you're dumb and you don't know what's going on. You know your feet were moving. You know the rules. That was a foul, clear cut. I know it was ticky-tacky, but the rule clearly states if you're moving and you create contact, that's a foul. So that was a foul. Kansas, is going to go to the line. Keeping an update. 8 seconds left. JK, no, this is not a basketball show, but this is a last-second ending for Arkansas, Kansas. So, bear with me. It will be over with soon. Relax, buddy. Anyways, so for the Pac-12. See, I don't respond well when people try to tell me how I do my shows. You already know that. So if you're going to troll me like that, then bye. Have a nice day. But for the Pac-12, Utah, Arizona State seem like that they are going to stay in the Pac-12. So if Colorado and Arizona are still going, and I talked about this in the video earlier, if Colorado and Arizona are still going, that opens up 2 spots. Kansas now down by 7.1 seconds left. I think that was a foul. Anyways, so 2 spots are open. And I talked about this in my video today. Does the Big 12 start looking at, if they're not already, assuming that they're not already, okay? Does the Big 12 start looking at Oregon State and Washington State? I think they should. I know that Oregon State and Washington State aren't the biggest, baddest brands out there, but Brett Yormark really wants that 4th time zone. I realize by grabbing Arizona, you're technically grabbing that 4th time zone because they don't have daylight savings time. So they are Pacific time zone up until November. And if you bring in Gonzaga, they're in Pacific time zone. So technically, you do have that time zone locked down with a combination of Arizona and Gonzaga, both in football and basketball. But why not just get the brands that locks it all the way around? And you're getting a solid footprint in the state of Washington, and you're getting a solid footprint in the state of Oregon. So, yeah. And if you're an Oregon State or Washington State fan, by the way, Arkansas is still up by 3. They hit both of them, and Kansas trying to create contact, and they did. I don't know if they're double bonus or whatever. He was not in the act of shooting. If they send this guy to the line for 3 shots, I'm going to be mad. He was not in the act of shooting. That was a little bit of a shove off, but the defender was moving, so that's a foul. Anyways, so 3 seconds left, guys. Another number 1 seed in danger. We'll see what happens. But for Oregon State and Washington State right now, unless the Big 12 is interested in you, then your only hope is that the Pac-12 survives. So my point, the video that I made today, the point that I was trying to make is that, yes, Larry, we're doing basketball. It's March Madness right now, man. Of course, we're going to look at, especially if there's an upset about to happen. Yes, I'm going to talk about it. Anyways, for Oregon State and Washington State, if the Big 12 is interested in you, you better be willing to take the jump, because otherwise you're putting all your eggs in the basket of the Pac-12. And I understand that most of these institutions are very focused on academics. I realize that. But if the conference is looking shaky, let's be honest, who looks more stabilized right now? Does the Pac-12 look more stabilized, or does the Big 12 look stabilized? I would have to say the Big 12. Not because they have better brands. Oh, it looks like Arkansas is going to win this, by the way. Yep, another 1 seed goes down. Arkansas wins 72-71. My brackets are completely busted. Done. Over. Golden Blue Dude is tapping out. I am tapping out. This was probably the worst brackets I've ever done, because my national championship is completely obliterated within the first 2 rounds. I had Arizona versus Kansas in the national championship, and my brackets are completely obliterated. Sorry, technical issues. Hold on. There we go. We're back. So yeah, that's why I was looking at this game, and even though I had Kansas in the national championship winning it, it really didn't matter because Arizona was already out. So I was pulling for the underdog. The underdog wins. Arkansas beats Kansas both in basketball and in football, both when they counted. In the bowl game, Arkansas beat Kansas, and now in the second round, Arkansas knocks out the number 1 seed. Kansas, y'all are not having a fun year, are you? Decent success in football, probably the best football year y'all have had in a very long time. But you get bounced by Arizona in the bowl game, and then once again a 1 seed going down again, and this time it's second round Arkansas. So sorry, Kansas. It's just not your year this year. It's just not your year this year. All right. Anyways, back to the Pac-12. Oregon State, Washington State. Andre King, I actually do agree with you. This is one of the best tournaments I've seen in a while, just because of the chaos. I mean, if you watch March Madness, 99% of us are watching because of the madness. The madness. That's why. Yes, this is the best tournament in years. I would agree with that. It's absolute pandemonium, but that's why we like it. We want to see the upsets. We want to see the craziness. Even when your brackets get busted like mine are total trash now. Like, they're worthless. They are worthless. Doesn't matter. I'm still entertained. That, you know what? That's one of the points that I try to make about my YouTube channel. Oh, Golden Blue Dude, you're wrong about this. Golden Blue Dude, that'll never happen. Well, as long as the fact that you're disagreeing with me, the fact that we're arguing tells me that you're entertained. If nothing else, people like to agree, argue. They like confrontation. They like, having a little back and forth. Speaking of a back and forth, great segue into Larry Pilgrim's $5 donation. Says, I asked a simple question. No need to be rude. I have nothing but support you financially. Larry, Um, I you know, I appreciate you supporting the channel. You know that. You asked me a question. You said if this was a basketball show. I said we're just going to keep track of this potential upset. You're the one that took it a step further, so I took it a step further. You know me. I'm not going to back down. All right. I wasn't being rude. I just threw back to you what you gave to me. It wasn't, and we just talked about this. This is what Gold and Blue is all about. Like, it's a back and forth. It's not just like, oh, you're right, you're right, you're right. Pat me on the back, pat you on the back. You know, you know, you know, you know, Gold and Blue is not like that. Anyways, we're not going to turn this into the Larry Pilgrim show, dude. I see what you're doing. We're not doing that. But for the Pac-12, by the way, I do appreciate the donation. Put that back on the screen real quick. He did pay money for that comment, and we do appreciate it. But we're not going to turn this into the Larry Pilgrim show. Sorry, buddy. You know that. But for the Pac-12, I think everybody thinks that the Pac-12 is in trouble. Best case scenario for the Pac-12. Best case scenario for the Pac-12. Everybody agrees to this deal, so they continue to exist. Okay? Does anybody think that they're going to get a deal that's better than the Big 12? Does anybody think that the Pac-12 is going to get a better TV deal than the Big 12? I don't. I think there's a possibility that they get enough money to where it keeps teams together for a little while longer. Does it solve the Oregon-Washington problem? Because we know for a fact that Oregon and Washington do, in fact, want to go to the Big Ten. They do. And the rumors that we've heard is that they do not want to sign a grant of rights past 3 years. I might have to take this hoodie off. It's like it's a little warm in here. I think it's because I'm right beside the heater. I forgot about that. There is a first for everything, right? So we'll try to do this as professional as possible. But I am burning up. I don't know about y'all. I am burning up. So I'm going to take this. Which, by the way, guys, we do have a merchandise store where you can get hoodies and T-shirts like that at a good price, because we did have a merchandise store up, but we didn't sell much because we had to charge too much because we went through a third party. Well, now we're making it in-house. We're shipping it ourselves, so we're basically selling it for as low as possible. So check out our merchandise store whenever you get a chance. Anyways, enough plugging myself. So the Pac-12 in trouble, and best case scenario, and I was just talking about it, they do survive this. But how much longer, even if everything stays together, how much longer does the Pac-12 stay together as far as the members that we see right now? I think that the Pac-12 will backfill, and the Pac-12 as a conference will stick around for a while, maybe forever. Maybe the Pac-12 never dies as a conference, and they just keep backfilling, and that's what they're trying to do right now. They're looking at San Diego State. They're looking at SMU, Colorado State. I've heard a fourth mystery team like Fresno State. You know what? If I was the Pac-12, I would put Tulane at the top of the list. Tulane has massive academics. That is a footprint in the state of Louisiana. That's great recruiting hotbed right there. You're extending your conference a little more east. And in my opinion, I think that Tulane has a better football brand than SMU. That's just my opinion. So why they're not, if the Pac-12 is not talking to Tulane, then I'm already questioning their decisions as is. But if they're not talking to Tulane, then I'm questioning them even more. Man, Cyclone Steve, thank you for the $2 donation. If Fox will pay $23.32 million extra for Colorado and Arizona, they'll jump. If Fox will pay $23.32 million extra for Colorado and Arizona, they'll jump. Well, the clause that I've been talking about as far as if the Big 12 adds Power 5 teams, they're guaranteed $20 million, a $20 million revenue bump. A lot of people kind of get that twisted. Oh man, why would anybody join the Big 12 for just $20 million? That's not what that means. That's the guarantee. That's the starting point. Those clauses were put into the contract to encourage the Big 12 to go after Power 5 teams over Group of 5 teams because there is no guarantee. There is no guarantee for any Group of 5. Do I think that there's some brands out there that would keep the revenue equal or only a slight drop? Yeah, Memphis. If you took that clause in the contract as far as no money for Group of 5, you just got to split the contract as is, and only $20 million for Power 5, the Big 12 would never expand again. If that's what that meant, the Big 12 would never expand again. A Group of 5, they would never accept a Group of 5 because they're just splitting the pie, how many ever more times. And then a Power 5 team is never going to come to the Big 12 because $20 million. I ain't joining the Big 12 for $20 million. So that's just the baseline. That is just the baseline. And for Colorado and Arizona, if they join, I guarantee you this, Fox and ESPN to a certain degree, they want Colorado and Arizona to jump. Because honestly, I think these networks are, well, I don't want to say 100%, but I think it's possible that these networks could be working together to try to get the Pac-12 picked apart. That way they can get these teams in the conferences that they want them in, and they want to pay them the money that they want to pay them. Daniel Dixon, another super chat coming in. Daniel Dixon, thank you for the $1.99 donation. Says that's the wrong one. There we go. Daniel Dixon says Pac becomes Group of 5, no longer a Power 5. That's a great comment. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Am I predicting that the Pac-12 dissolves? No. Because what I say, they could keep backfilling, get San Diego State and SMU and Colorado State and whoever this year. More teams leave next year and they backfill more. But I think Daniel Dixon is onto something. At some point, the NCAA can look at this and be like, all right, I think it's down. I think the number is 6. Once a Power 5 conference gets down to 6 of the members that were, part of the original agreement whenever it became a Power 5 conference, once it gets down to that amount, then the NCAA can look at that conference and be like, do we want this conference to remain a Power 5 conference? Or do we want to take that autonomous 5 protection off? Because if they lose Oregon, Washington to the Big Ten, right? And then let's say the first go around they lose Arizona and Colorado to the Big 12. Right there, there's 6. Maybe the NCAA is like, that's fine. They have 6. They're backfilling. We'll keep them in a Power 5. Well, let's say eventually Arizona State and Utah join Colorado, Arizona, or Oregon State and Washington State, they decide, all right, this is not working. We want to get paid more. We're going to the Big 12. Then you're down to 4 of the original members that signed that first TV deal. Stanford and Cal, and then whoever doesn't go between Utah, Arizona State, Oregon State, Washington State. When it gets down to 4, that's when you're in trouble. 6, maybe you can still maintain it because you're still bringing in decent brands. I think San Diego State is a must-get for the Pac-12. I really do. I think that was a smart move for the Pac-12 to pursue them. Colorado State, I don't understand that decision. SMU, I mean, I understand that they want a footprint in the state of Texas, and SMU is located in DFW, but they have trouble filling a 32,000-seat stadium. That's not a good football brand. Now, SMU has good academics, but how does that help them with their TV deal? SMU does not help the Pac-12 when it comes to a TV deal. Neither does Colorado State. So it almost seems like the Pac-12 is preparing to lose members. It's almost like the Pac-12 knows it's about to lose members. I mean, why would you? Colorado State, and I'm not trying to trash talk Colorado State or bash them or look down on them, but if you talk to fans of Pac-12 teams 2 or 3 years ago and said, "Hey, you're going to be talking to Colorado State," they would have laughed at you. What, Colorado State? No, we already have Colorado. Why would we even talk to Colorado State? So it just shows this path of desperation that the Pac-12 is going down right now. San Diego State, that addition does not show desperation. Let me be clear. The Pac-12 going after San Diego State, that is not a sign of desperation. That is a smart decision because you lost USC and you lost UCLA, so you lost a big chunk of your southern, well, not a big chunk, you lost all of your Southern Cal TV viewership. At least that softens the blow. And I would add Fresno State as well. But Colorado State and SMU, I just I really don't get it. I don't. If somebody seriously, besides the argument of SMU is in the state of Texas, we all know that. I mean, basic geography. They're near DFW, but that doesn't mean anything if you don't have fans that show up and you don't have the viewership. I'd really like to see the viewership numbers for SMU. I bet they're horrific. I really do, especially when you compare it to the teams that you lost. I'm very interested to see the TV the TV viewership from SMU. Cyclone Steve, thank you for the $2 donation. Says if Pac deal is low, will Washington State, Oregon State take $20 million till 2031? See, that's what I was saying earlier. I would say no because I think that the Pac-12 deal would be at least 20 million. We're talking 22, 25 million, which is significantly lower than the Big 12, but it's more than 20 million. That was what I was trying to explain earlier. The Big 12 adding Washington State and Oregon State, that doesn't mean because of that clause of, if you get Power 5 teams, you guaranteed 20 million. It doesn't mean that's all they're going to get. It's just the start. It's the baseline. It's the guarantee. Washington State and Oregon State will not leave the Pac-12 for the Big 12 for 20 million a year till 2031. No, that would not happen. They would turn that down in a heartbeat. Now, if the Pac-12 deal is, I don't know, 22, 25 million, and Washington State and Oregon State keeps everybody the same or only slightly lowers it, is 30 million. The real question is 30 million enough for Washington State and Oregon State to lead the Big 12? And on top of that, stability. This isn't just about money. Money is the main driver. Don't get me wrong. It's the main driver of all this, but it's not the only thing. Because you got to realize if these teams decide to not jump from the Pac-12 to the Big 12, then they're electing to stay in a conference that still has a very high likelihood of losing Oregon and Washington. Think about this. Once the Pac-12 loses Oregon and Washington, how much is their deal going to be worth the next renegotiation? You think this renegotiation is bad? Once the Pac-12 loses Oregon and Washington, it drops significantly more. And that's why I said in my video today, these teams need to be thinking ahead. Yes, Oregon and Washington are still a part of the Pac-12 now, but from what I'm hearing, they're only wanting to sign a grant of rights no longer than 3 years. And once they're gone, the TV deal is going to be absolute garbage. Arturo Barderas, thank you for the $9.99 donation. Appreciate the support, buddy. Says, if the Pac had acquired Texas, Oklahoma State, and Texas Tech in 2010/2011, they'd have been the first super conference, and they wouldn't be experiencing this. It pays to be proactive. That's what I'm talking about. Yes. Yes. And that factors in directly into what I've been saying. These teams should not be basing their decisions on the here and now. The here and now is already bleak. Already bleak. But you're hearing from some fan bases, well, we think the Pac-12 can survive this and get through this. So we don't want to leave now because the academics are great, and we're afraid we're going to take a hit on the funding for that. And I understand that argument, but once Oregon and Washington leaves the Pac-12, how much is the Pac-12 worth after that? I mean, the Pac-12 took a big hit whenever UCLA and USC left. Washington is and Oregon staying in the Pac-12. That is the only reason they have a halfway, and I use that term lightly, halfway decent offer on the table that's still lower than the Big 12. So if we're talking about a $25 million per team per year offer with Washington and Oregon, once those two teams leave, and we all know they will, sooner or later, Washington and Oregon will leave the Pac-12. That is happening. That is happening. We all know that. And once they do leave, what's the next TV deal going to look like? 15 million per team per year? 18 million? 20 if they're lucky? I know I'm a bit extreme sometimes, and I do speculate a lot. But Washington and Oregon, they are the glue that's keeping the Pac-12 together right now. Without those two brands, trash TV deal. You think this TV deal is bad? Whatever it is, because we still don't know what the amount is. I mean, it could be as high as 28 million, which is still not as much as the Big 12. As bad as this TV deal is, without Oregon and Washington, it drops significantly. Significantly. So, to Arturo Balderas' point, if the Pac would have acquired Texas, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and Texas Tech, guess what? USC and UCLA don't leave. They don't leave. Because the Pac-12 is now in the driver's seat. The Pac-12, like to his point, the Pac-12 becomes the first super conference. They're going to be bringing in a lot of money. If the Pac-12 would have been able to get Texas, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and Texas Tech, we would be talking about a Pac-12 TV deal that's competitive with the SEC and the Big Ten. Yes, you heard me. If the Pac-12, like Arturo is suggesting, if the Pac-12 was able to land those four teams, and they were talking to those teams, and honestly, Texas was very, very close to signing the deal with the Pac-12. Very close. They backed out literally at the last second. That's how close the Pac-12 is to being a mega conference, having a TV deal that's competitive with the SEC and the Big Ten. And then we would be talking about the roles being reversed. We would be talking about the Pac-12 thinking about snuffing out the Big 12. Or maybe a combination of the Pac-12, Big Ten, and SEC coming together to finally, once and for all, snuff out the Big 12. But it didn't happen, and here we are. USC and UCLA did leave off to the Big Ten, and now the Pac-12 is in trouble, and they're only hanging by the skin of Oregon and Washington. By the way, quick update on the Big Dance. 15 seed Princeton trying to get to the Sweet 16, and it's looking pretty good. They're beating Missouri with 2 minutes and 11 seconds left, 71-55. So we're looking at another double-digit seed trying to get into the Big Dance. Right when you think this NCAA tournament can't get any crazier, it gets crazier. Now, last year we had St. Peter's. They also went to the Sweet 16. We'll see if Farley Dickinson can be the first ever 16 seed to get into the Sweet 16 tomorrow. But, man, this thing has gotten crazier, and crazier. So we'll keep our eyes on that. But in the meantime, let's keep talking about the Pac-12. Does anybody think that the Pac-12 is actually in a good position? I'm interested to hear from Pac-12 fans. Do y'all really think that the Pac-12 is actually in a good position? I've heard some comments. I've seen some comments on my videos, and I'm pretty sure they're troll attempts, but you never know. You never know. Some people really do think this stuff. But I saw one comment on one of my videos that said the Pac-12 will get a TV deal worth $40 million per team per year, and then they'll target the Big 12. Obviously, that sounds like a troll attempt. So I don't think anybody thinks that that's going to happen. But does anybody think that the Pac-12 is going to get a TV deal that's competitive with the Big 12? Let's say, can they pull $30 million per team per year after production costs? Okay, remember this TV deal that the Pac-12 is looking into streaming heavy. In other words, mostly streaming. That's another bad thing about this thing. It's supposed to be streaming heavy. Most of their games are going to be streamed. That's not a good idea. Listen, if this was 10, 15 years from now, then it's probably a great deal because I do think that the future of viewership for anything, movies, well, it's already here, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, all that stuff, Amazon Prime, movies, but sports will move in that direction as well. All right. So in the future, streaming for sports, I think the majority of people will be watching sports, college football, college basketball, whatever the case may be, is going to be streaming. But that's not the right now. That's not the here and now. Most people watch college football on linear cable. It's just how it is. So the fact that this deal is streaming heavy is bad right off the bat. You have to factor in production costs and the estimate. I don't know what the actual amount of this is. This is just an estimate, but the estimate of production costs to stream these Pac-12 games, uh, everybody's thinking 75 million, which means you would have to divide that by 10. That's about 7-8 million. So if the deal is worth let's say 28 million before production costs, well, taking off 7-8 million a year, then you're looking at a 20 to 28 million per team per year. Oh yeah, don't forget about the 50 million that they owe Comcast. The Pac-12 is not in the driver's seat right now. Maybe they can get through this and get in the driver's seat in the future. I don't know, but right now there's so many things that's not good about this situation for the Pac-12. And listen, if I'm coming off as a Pac-12 hater, then I'm not. I'm not going to say I'm sorry because that's perception. That's on you, not me. I'm just giving you what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing. But I am not a Pac-12 hater. If you've been a subscriber of Golden Bluted for any amount of time, you know that I'm not a Pac-12 hater. I have missed the Pac-12 not being represented in the playoffs. I remember whenever those USC teams under Pete Carroll were dominant. College football was amazing to watch. I remember whenever Washington won the national championship back in, what was it, 90, 91? I remember that. That was some good stuff. And it's just like the Pac-12 has become irrelevant. And I think that has factored into these TV deal offers. I do. I think the fact that the Pac-12 hasn't been relevant over the past 7-8 years, when it comes to the playoffs and national championship, that also gets factored into these TV deal offers. So sooner or later, we knew that was going to catch up with them, and it looks like it's catching up with them right now with this negotiation situation. Hillbilly Skeptic, good to see you, buddy. Appreciate the $5 donation. Says, would signing a long-term deal that's bad mortally wound the Pac-12 teams? Wouldn't that affect coach hires? Meanwhile, Maryland gets over 70 million. WTF. Let me read this again. Would signing a long-term deal that's bad mortally wound the Pac-12 teams? Wouldn't that affect coach hires? Meanwhile, Maryland gets over 70 mil. WTF. Yes. 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 100%. See, this is why I think Colorado is going to the Big 12 because they hired Deion Sanders in the offseason. I don't think Deion Sanders would have accepted the job at Colorado if he knew that Colorado was staying in the Pac-12. I think there was a pitch to Deion Sanders saying, hey, listen, this is what we're going to offer you, but we're not staying in the Pac-12, and we're going to have a little bit better TV deal. So we're going to be able to keep you around, and we're going to be able to pay you what you want to be paid. So, just bear with us. We have it confirmed. We just got to go through some hoops. Maybe the Pac-12 can pull something out of their rear end and be competitive with the Big 12. Either way, you're going to get paid, Dion. All right? There's no way. It's one thing to hire a good coach or a high-profile coach. We don't know if Deion Sanders is a good coach for Power 5 yet. He did good in the FCS, and then over 200 transfers reached out to Colorado immediately, 48 hours after they hired him, and the NIL revenue has gone through the roof. So the impact on Colorado, because he's a high-profile coach, was immediate. Now we'll see what he can do on the field. And I think Colorado being 1-11 sets him up nicely, because even if Colorado goes 4-8, that's way better than last year. That looks like massive improvement. I think Colorado will get to a bowl, and it's going to look even better. By the way, 35.7 seconds left in the second half. Princeton is going to be going to the Sweet 16. 75-61, 35.7 seconds left, and another high or low, however you want to word it, 15 seed. Let's word it that way. 15 seed Princeton on to the Sweet 16. This is absolutely nuts. Multiple 1 seeds already gone down. 15 seed Princeton already beat Arizona, the 2 seed. I had Arizona going to the national championship. Kansas goes down earlier. My brackets are total trash now because I had Arizona versus Kansas, with Kansas winning back-to-back national championships. And it's just it's not looking good. And it looks like Houston is behind Auburn as well, 41-31. Halftime, Houston is down by 10 points. This is nuts, guys, but this is why we love it. This is why we love it. Man. Wet Blanket says my team is still playing in the NIT. There you go, buddy. But yeah, your team is still playing. Congratulations on that. Connor Johnson says this is a clown show. Hey, I appreciate that. At least that means that I'm entertaining you. So I appreciate that, buddy. Tell a friend, by the way. Deion Sanders had immediate financial impact on Colorado. NIL revenue through the roof, transfers contacting high-profile NIL athletes contacting Colorado. So they're in a good position as far as athletics. I think it comes down to this as far as teams jumping to the Big 12. And I think Utah, this is where it kind of makes Utah come off disingenuous, okay? If you're going by academics, I can understand staying in the Pac-12 because, yes, the Pac-12 is a better academics conference. There's no disputing that. None. So if you're making a decision based on academics and you're not worried about the TV deal, then I understand staying in the Pac-12. But once you start talking about athletics, the NIL, having a good football program, then staying in the Pac-12 is going to hurt you, because you're not going to make as much money for that NIL and TV deal, TV contract, however you want to word it, by staying in the Pac-12. So it just all depends on what reason you're making the decision. Daniel Deal. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Is it Daniel Deal or another pronunciation? Let me know in the comment section, please. Daniel Deal, thank you for the $4.99 donation. Says, Washington had the same exact offensive players in 2021. Shows what the right coaching hire can make. Exactly. And Chris Peterson had Washington humming, and whenever he was gone, what happened? Lake happened, and Lake was a terrible coach, and immediately Washington started tanking again. And then this year they have a decent coach again. I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but Washington back again. Michael Penix Jr. transfers to Washington. You got to think about these transfers as well. If you don't have the NIL money to get these recruits and to get these transfers, your football program is going to go down the tubes. And that's why I said, if you're making these decisions based on academics, okay, fine. I understand. You're more worried about academics than athletics. And I'm not trash talking you. I'm not looking down on you. I'm not bashing you. Stanford is probably going to make their decisions based on academics over athletics, and that's fine. I understand that. I'm okay with that. That's fine. But you can't sit there and tell me, well, I think it's in the best interest of our athletics and our NIL programs and our football program and our athletics to stay in the Pac-12. That just makes no sense. Which, by the way, 2-1, Princeton is headed to the Sweet 16. 78-63, emphatically whoops Missouri. Man, Princeton beats the 1 seed Purdue, and then they just flat out embarrass Missouri. Can they get to the Final Four is the next question for mighty Princeton. Mighty Princeton. Anyways, big dance crazy, guys. I have to talk about it whenever it happens. And it looks like Houston is in trouble at halftime, 41-31. In case you didn't know that, San Diego State is on. Duke is knocked out, by the way, but Tennessee is a good team. All right, there's your update on the big dance. And see, that's why I think these Pac-12 teams need to make these decisions based on the future. They need to be making proactive decisions. You can't be making a decision on hopefully the conference stays together and maybe the next go around we can get a decent TV deal. Because number one, next go around, you're not going to get a decent TV deal because next go around, Oregon and Washington are going to be gone. The next TV negotiation, whether it's 3 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever, Oregon and Washington, they're not going to be in the Pac-12. So a lot of, whenever somebody gives you advice, all right, what do they say? Whenever you make a decision, you have to factor in everything, okay? Not just one thing, not just a couple things. You have to factor in everything. One of those factors has to be Washington and Oregon not remaining in the Pac. Does anybody in the comment section, now I'm being for real, all right? Does anybody in the comment section truly, in your heart of hearts, do you truly think that Oregon and Washington are in the Pac-12 for the long haul? Not just this TV deal negotiation, this go around, for the long haul. Do you think that Oregon and Washington will remain in the Pac-12 for the foreseeable future? Anybody? I don't think so. I really don't. And as low and bad, however you want to word it, that this TV deal is going to be, how much lower is the next TV deal going to be whenever Oregon and Washington are gone? And Jeffrey Thompson, that's a good comment. Stanford has a $38 billion endowment with a $1.5 billion annual payout. Think they can afford anything. Exactly. Stanford ain't going anywhere. We're not talking about Stanford. And if the Pac-12 dissolves, Stanford, and I've said this several times, Stanford would rather go independent or drop sports altogether than go to the Big 12. I'll tell you that. Stanford would never go to the Big 12. The only conference that Stanford would jump to from the Pac-12 would be the Big 10. That's it. Stanford and Cal, those two teams right there, the only conference that they would jump to out of the Pac-12 would be the Big 10, and I think there's a chance of that happening. I do. If you don't understand how the Big 10 works, here's how the Big 10 works. They're basically a Commonwealth conference. What do I mean by that? Whenever you join the Big 10, you have access to everybody else's resources, and everybody else has access to your resources. So if you have a lot of resources, academics, endowments, all that stuff, which I'm not saying they share their endowments, but like even their libraries, stuff like that, everybody gets access to that. So Stanford and Cal, even though they don't have sports value right now, although Stanford has been good in the past, they don't add anything to the athletic side. But on the other stuff, the academics, the research, they add a lot. It looks like Hillbilly Skeptic has another super chat on here. Appreciate the support, buddy. Says, I think they stay, and it will destroy football. ITLR. You might be right. That is an option. Okay, let's go down that road real quick, all right? Let's say that these teams do stay in the Pac-12 under a terrible TV deal. Are they going to be able to keep good head coaches? Are they going to be able to recruit at the level that they need to recruit to be competitive for playoffs and national championship? Are they going to be able to sustain good coaching staffs? What about transfers? Are they going to have enough money to bring in those big transfers that want NIL money? Serious question, guys. And I'm not bashing the Pac 12. Not at all. Not at all. We're just going by the moves that we've seen, all the stuff that we've been hearing, who's talking to who's thinking about jumping, who's not thinking about jumping. And then you have to talk about the consequences. You can't just talk about the decisions that these teams and universities will make. You also have to talk about what happens when they make these decisions. Let's say all these teams decide to stay in the Pac-12. That's a real option. It is. It is. It's a real option. It could happen. It's definitely on the table. This TV deal is out. We don't know the numbers, but these teams are looking at it right now. These universities are looking at this deal. And they might decide it's good enough. We love the Pac-12. It's good enough. We're staying in the Pac-12. Give me the grant of rights. Let's sign the grant of rights. I don't know how long the grant of rights. We don't even know the terms of the grant of rights yet. But it's good enough. We're going to sign the grant of rights. All right? I don't think you're being. I don't think that you're going to be competitive in football if you don't make the money. Now, this last year, the Pac-12 had like 5 teams, I believe, have double-digit win seasons. So it looked like a strong conference, but then when it came down to it, USC had a chance to get in. Utah beat them, knocked the Pac-12 out of the playoffs, which, by the way, more revenue lost. See, this has hurt the Pac-12 as well. And I mentioned this earlier. The Pac-12 not making the playoffs for 7, 8 years has also hurt the Pac-12 financially, and it's catching up to them. They had a chance this year to make the playoffs. USC couldn't get it done, and Utah beats them. Pac-12 doesn't make the playoffs, and they don't get to make that playoff money. So if you sign this deal and you're not making enough money to keep great coaches, because the bigger names will come a calling with more money, you don't have the money to counter that. They leave, or you don't have the money to recruit these high caliber recruits, these high profile recruits, or you don't have the NIL money to get the transfers, and your team starts sinking. You don't make the playoffs, so there goes that money. It's like a ripple effect. If you're okay with a low payout deal, then don't expect good results. That's all I can say. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. And like I've said, and y'all know this, I'm not a Pac-12 hater. I'm just going by simple math. If you're the Power 5 conference that makes less than anybody else, what do you think's going to happen? Do you think you're going to have the success of all the conferences? No. College football has evolved. I mean, it's almost to the point of pay for play. We're almost there. You know, I was before NIL was passed, legalized, whatever you want to call it. I was for NIL, but the problem is they didn't have guidelines before they put it out. Same with the playoffs. I wanted the playoffs, but they got rid of the BCS system and they put in the human factor, and that's turned into a clown show itself. It's crazy. It's like they want to do the right thing, but they never have the right game plan to do the right thing, if that makes any sense. And it seems like the Pac-12 kind of falls under the same category. They're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to make the right decisions. They're trying to do the best they can, but they just seem to never have the right game plan. Now, who knows? Maybe the Pac-12 shocks us all, and They're able to pay out 35, 40 million per team per year. I don't see it happening, but let's just say they do. That would shock everybody. Then maybe they would be in the position to pick off from the Big 12. If that's when everybody's attitude towards the Pac-12 would change. If they had a better deal, not if they survive, but if they had a better deal than the Big 12. There's this. We're talking about two different things, okay? The Pac-12 surviving on 25, 28 million per team per year, staying intact. That's not good for the Pac-12 teams. If you're a football fan, and this is a college football YouTube channel, so that's what we're talking about. If you're a football fan and your team signs a crappy TV deal, that's bad for your team. There's no way around it. Your team signs a bad TV deal for a conference. Yes, the conference stays intact, but that is bad for your team. Good for your academics and all the other stuff. And yes, that does factor into their decision. I'm just letting you know what's going to happen. If the Pac-12 does survive on a bad TV deal, then these football programs are not going to be able to sustain success. They might have a good year every once in a while. And with the playoff expansion, they'll be able to get in because the top six champions get in auto bid. So they will get in. But because they can't keep grabbing that high caliber talent, whether it's recruiting or transfer portal, they're going to get smashed out in the first round. Maybe if they're lucky, they'll get to the semifinals and then play a top four team and then get smashed. And as a West Virginia fan, it already seemed unfair as far as we had to recruit against the Blue Bloods and the brands of these other teams. Now we have to recruit against the money of these other teams. So I actually feel the pain of Pac-12 fans, all right? Our TV deal isn't great. 31.5 million per team per year compared to, what the Big Ten and the SEC, that's a drop in the bucket. So I know how you feel to a certain extent, but if your team signs a TV deal that's even lower than that, I mean, you're just putting yourself behind the eight ball when it comes to athletics. So I guess it just depends on what direction you want your program to go in. Maybe Oregon is going to be fine because they have they have the backing of Nike. They have a lot of support from their fan base. But I just can't see, because we know that Oregon and Washington applied to the Big Ten and the Big Ten turned them down. So if there is ever an opening at the Big Ten, I cannot see any situation where Oregon turns them down. Once again, we're theorizing that Oregon potentially stays in the Big Ten. If the Big Ten wants Oregon, guess what? The Big Ten is going to get Oregon. If the Big Ten wants Washington, guess what? The Big Ten is going to get Washington. There's nothing that the Pac-12 can do to fight them off. Nothing. Just like if the Big Ten wanted a team out of the Big 12, there's nothing the Big 12 could do about it. Might be an exit fee, a substantial exit fee, but ultimately the teams would make that decision. The universities would make that decision. So you have to base your decisions on knowing what's going to happen. And what we know is going to happen is that Oregon and Washington, they're not going to be in the Pac-12 for the foreseeable future. Maybe they gut it out for 3 more years. Maybe they gut it out for 5 more years. And the Pac-12 can make some money off of them while they're in there. But after that, they're gone. They're gone. The Pac-12 is not going to be able to keep Oregon and Washington. So my thing is, would you rather make a decision now, controlling your own destiny, getting the most money possible? And I'm talking about Arizona, Colorado, and any of these other teams talking to the Big 12, possibly joining the Big 12, possibly not joining the Big 12. Would you rather make your decision now in control of your own destiny, or would you rather make your decision because you had to, possibly not getting as much money as you wanted to? Because proactive decisions are worth way more than reactive decisions. If Oregon and Washington leave and everybody knows that the Pac-12 is getting desperate, then guess what? these conferences that are talking to you now, in the future, they might lowball you because now they know you're desperate. They know that if they lowball you, you would still be making more money than if you were to stay in the Pac-12. You have to be thinking ahead when you make these decisions. And that's why I thought it was a good decision by Brett Yormark to jump the Pac-12, even though the Big 12's TV contract ended a year after. Big 12 still has 2 years left on their deal. Pac-12 only has 1 year, but he jumped the line and secured a deal. He knew that there was only so much money out there, and he grabbed as much of it possible and left the leftovers for the Pac-12. In the meantime, George Kliavkoff, the commissioner of the Pac-12, he thought that the Pac-12 was worth what the Big Ten and the SEC is, even with UCLA and USC leaving, and he opened up the bidding. We will turn the Pac-12 media rights over to the highest bidder, and that has come back and bid him in the rear end. I ain't trying to scare anybody to anything. If you want to stay in the in the Pac-12, knowing that Oregon and Washington are going to leave, and your TV deal is going to be even worse next go around, go. It's your decision. It's not my decision. I'm just telling you what's going to happen, and you know it. I mean, do you really believe that Oregon and Washington are going to stay in the Pac-12? Not just this go around, but like forever. Do you think that they are staying in the Pac-12 no matter what? I mean, make sure you're living in this universe before you think about this. I mean, if you're clearly thinking, if you have all your wits about you, you have to realize that no, that's not going to happen. They will be, if the Big Ten wants them, they will get them. The only way that Oregon and Washington stay in the Pac-12 is if the Big Ten doesn't want them. That's the only reason they're in the Pac-12 right now. Think about that. The only reason that Oregon and Washington are in the Pac-12 right now is because the Big Ten turned them down. So the only reason that Oregon and Washington stay in the Pac-12 in the future is if the Big Ten doesn't want them. The Pac-12 is existing at the mercy of the Big Ten right now. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to come down on anybody, but that's facts. They already took USC and UCLA away from you, and if they want to, they can take Oregon and Washington away from you. And I'll be honest with you, the Big 12 is in the same situation. We are existing at the mercy of the Big 10 and the SEC. We're just in a little bit better position than the Pac-12. That's the only difference. John Marzullo, what's going on, buddy? Pitt fan. He's actually a good supporter of Golden Blue with the super chat. So, John Marzullo, thank you for the. Can we get that on the screen? No problem. John Marzullo, we actually have several Pitt loyal Pitt subscribers, and they donate to the show, and we appreciate that. John Marzullo, thank you for the $1.99 donation. Says Oregon's going to do whatever Phil Knight wants. Yes, and Phil Knight wants the Big Ten, and he actually went to meet Kevin Moore to talk about a deal. Phil Knight definitely. Don't forget, Phil Knight is getting up there in age, but I think Phil Knight, before his days are done here on Earth, he wants to see Oregon in the Big Ten. That's a good comment, John. I agree with you 100%. And, of course, we all already know that Phil Knight, the owner of Nike, wants Oregon in the Big Ten. That's a fact. We know that as well. So, like I said just a minute ago, the Pac-12 has Oregon and Washington at the mercy of the Big Ten and pretty much anybody else. If the Big Ten came a calling, I mean, you can't sit there and tell me that if the Big Ten came calling for Arizona, Stanford, Cal, Utah, Oregon, and Washington, that those teams wouldn't leave. They would leave like that. Same thing as if the SEC wanted Baylor, TCU, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, whoever. If they wanted the teams, they would be gone just like that. And if the Big Ten wanted Kansas, well, Iowa State did have AU status. So really, Kansas is the only team that would qualify for the Big Ten. If the Big Ten wanted Kansas, Kansas would be gone. Both the Pac-12 and the Big 12 exist at the mercy of the Big Ten and the SEC. We know that. The only difference that I see between the Big 12 and the Pac-12 is that they're in a little bit better position. They grabbed up as much of that remaining money as possible. They are linear cable heavy. And this new TV deal by the Pac-12 is going to be streaming heavy. and the deal is going to be worth less. I don't I don't know if it's going to be. The question is it going to be a little bit less or is it going to be substantially less? It will be less than the Big 12. So it boils down to, is it going to be enough to keep these teams together for another 3 to 5 years? Because after that, all bets are off. I don't see it happening as far as Oregon and Washington stay in the Big Ten. I just don't. And I'm not trying to be a doom and gloom type of guy. I'm just telling you the way I see it, from what I've seen from everybody, what everybody's talking about, the feelings of of the Arizona president. And he made a comment the other day that said no Pac-12 team is going to leave before they see the TV deal. And a lot of people took that and ran with it and said, "Well, see, he's saying that no Pac-12 is leaving." No, that's not what he said. He said no Pac-12 team is leaving before they see the TV deal. So they want to see that TV deal and see how low it is, and if it's not up to what they want, then they can make the decision to leave. I do think that Utah has made it very, very clear that they're staying in the Pac-12, and I do think that Arizona State has also made it very, very clear that they're going to stay in the Pac-12. It's Arizona and Colorado. Those are the two universities. Those are the two brands that I'm looking at that I think will make the jump to the Big 10 or Big 12, excuse me. And then you have to look at, all right, well, the Big 12 didn't get Arizona State and Utah. Do they look at Oregon State and Washington State? And if I'm an Oregon State and Washington State fan, you better hope that the Big 12 is looking at you, because the Pac-12, you're not going to be getting a lot of money from that TV deal, and you're not going to. It's possible that you're not going to last much longer as a Power 5 conference. Now that's like looking way, 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 way into the future, because you got to get down to 6 members first before you start talking about that. And as of right now, Oregon and Washington are still in the Big 10. As of right now, or Pac-12, excuse me. And as of right now, the Pac-12 is a Power 5 conference. But you got to plan ahead. That's all I'm saying about all this. You have to plan ahead. Is $28 million a year with Oregon and Washington enough for you to stay, knowing that Oregon and Washington are leaving? That's my question. If you're a Pac-12 fan watching this, and let's say after costs, so we factor in costs, all right? Because this is streaming heavy. After costs, let's say this deal is worth 28 per team per year, which is only a little bit less than the Big 12, so that makes it competitive, right? Is that good enough for you to stay in the Pac-12 knowing that Oregon and Washington are not loyal to the Pac-12? We know that. That is a fact. That, I talk about speculation and hearsay all the time, but that is a fact. We know for a fact that Washington and Oregon don't want to be in the Pac-12. That's why they applied to the Big Ten whenever USC and UCLA jumped. They want to be in the Big Ten. So that's a fact that we know. So the first opportunity they get, the first invite that they get from the Big Ten, they're going to the Big Ten. Knowing all this information, do you think it's the right decision for your team? Is Oregon State, Washington State, Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, Colorado, Stanford, Cal? Fan of any of those teams, do you think it's the right decision for your team to reign in the Pac-12? Quick update, Houston is coming back on Auburn. They're only down by 2. So that's the question that I want to ask my Pac-12 subscribers. Taking everything into consideration, do you think that it's the right decision? No, I'm not asking you what do you think your university does. I'm asking you, do you think it's the right decision for your university to sign these grant of rights and commit to the Pac-12 for how many ever years, knowing everything I just explained? I don't think it is, but that's just my opinion. Anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. Appreciate everybody stopping by. I had a good time. As long as you had a good time, hey, listen, it doesn't matter if you agree with me or disagree with me. That's not what this is all about, because we're going to have disagreements. I actually like it when people disagree with me. The point of this is, were you entertained? As long as you were entertained, you had a good time, that's all that matters. I appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure to hit the like button on the way out, even if you're watching the replay of this. Even if you're watching the replay of this, doesn't matter. We still greatly appreciate you hitting the like button. It is what helps these videos hit the YouTube algorithm, because it gets it suggested more people see it, and they click on it, and boom, that's how you grow the viewership. And let's be honest, I am not trying to sugarcoat things, but you know what? It is views that what keep these YouTube channels going. And if somebody tells you otherwise, they're lying to you. Subscribers help. We love our subscribers, and we love seeing our subscriber base grow. But it's seriously, the views is what's driving all these YouTube channels. So keep the likes coming. Keep the comments coming. You guys are amazing. You support Golden Blue Dude like no other. And we're marching our way to 15,000 subscribers before the season starts. I think that we can get to 20,000 before 2024. But I can't do it without your help, without you hitting that like button, without you leaving comments in as many videos as possible. Appreciate it. This live show was sponsored, brought to you by Mint Mobile. Make sure to check out our link in the description of the video. Great cell phone service for as low as $15 a month. I'm telling you, go check it out. We all need a cell phone plan, right? And we all have a budget, and we're all trying to find ways to cut corners on our budgets. Where's the cheapest gas station so I can find the cheapest gas? Or let me go to a discount grocery store to try to buy the cheapest groceries. Well, your cell phone plan is one way that you can cut back on your budget. Listen, I was paying hundreds of dollars on my cell phone plan. Well, at Mint Mobile, you can get a cell phone plan for as low as $15. My entire family, not just my immediate family, but my brothers, my parents, everybody around me, once we started talking about this, they switched to Mint Mobile. It's great cell phone coverage as well. Great service. Hey, I'm up here in West Virginia, and I have great cell phone coverage. So if it has great cell phone coverage up here, it's basically going to work everywhere. So go check it out in the description of this video, and go save some money on Mint Mobile and help out Golden Bluted as well. Might as well, right? Anyways, guys, appreciate you guys stopping by, supporting the channel. Make sure to tell somebody about Golden Bluted. But as of right now, on Saturday, Golden Bluted is out.